Good evening, class. Good evening, professor. Good evening, whomever else will be viewing this video. My name is Curtis Johnson, and I will be presenting to you on tonight my views on the passage Mark chapter 10, the Gospel according to Mark chapter 10, verses 42 through verse 45. This passage theme, I believe, is dealing with servant leadership. After spending some time with this passage, looking at it from different angles, I see how passionate or passionately pursued leadership is, but how unpassionately pursued servanthood is. A lot of people want to be a leader. A lot of people want to be over something. A lot of people want people under them. But many people don't want to serve. We see many people going to the extreme extents in order to obtain the title of leader, the position of leader. We even see in this passage as James and John, they appear to have Jesus to themselves, and they take the opportunity to put something in his ear. They basically ask him for position. Now that right there, at least in itself, allows me to understand that these two gentlemen realized that leadership, true leadership, can only come from God. I say this because they approached Jesus with this question that he would place one of them on the left hand and one of them on the right hand. If they were looking at leadership according to the way the world looks at leadership, then I don't believe that they would be consulting God. Usually in society, which is what Jesus deals with later on in verses 42 through 45, he speaks about the Gentiles, which is, if you look at it, he talks about the heathen, the Gentile heathen, the one that pursues position, that wants to just be over someone. And that's the worldly concept of leadership. These gentlemen wanted the position without the process. These gentlemen wanted the title without the responsibility. Jesus told these same disciples about the cost of leadership. He told them, he simply said that in order to be my disciple, in order to follow after me, you must first deny yourself, which is one of the first things that you must understand as a leader. You have to deny yourself. Is no longer you and how you feel and what you think and what you say, but you are under the government of God. You are his ambassador. You are actually his slave, his servant. A lot of times, even as it pertains to the world that we now live in, a lot of people can't fathom the characteristics of leadership as it pertains to servant, because they look at the actual serving of another man, and a lot of people have a problem with that. But the scripture tells me that if I submit myself under the mighty hand of God, that means that I humble myself under the mighty hand of God, not the actual hand of God. I have to realize that through serving man, through serving people, I'm serving God through serving people. James and John took the opportunity to try to get a position. And the Bible said that the other disciples, after hearing it, that they were upset about it. Now Jesus tells them, first he tells them that basically, can you drink from the cup that I would drink from? Can you be baptized in the baptism that I am baptized with? And these two young men, they're excited about it, and they basically answer without even really thinking, and they say, yes, we can do that. And Jesus, just to himself, says, yeah, you shall indeed drink of it. And later on, we find out what actually happened to James and him being beheaded. But the crazy part even about that is with the disciples being upset. Watch this. The disciples had just had this conversation some chapters prior as they were coming from Caesarea Philippi, and they were actually kind of arguing about this same thing. Now here it is, the rest of the disciples now currently are mad at James and John, but they were actually thinking the same thing and probably were waiting on the opportunity to do exactly what James and John did. And that lets me know also that in pursuing leadership, that sometimes, you'll go to the extreme of even possibly discrediting someone close to you. It could be your brother. It could be anybody that's close to you. When you have a passion and a drive at all costs and by any means for a position, it will cause you to do some things that you will later on think about and probably regret. Jesus, as we get down to verse 42, after actually Jesus tells the disciples that you will go through some things as you said, but the position of leadership, the position of left or right hand in the kingdom is not even mine to give, but it belongs to God. Verse 42, Jesus takes an opportunity to address all of the disciples. And he basically tells them that you will not lead kingdom like the world leads. You will not view leadership like the world views leadership. The world says that the higher that you're up, the less you will have to do. But in kingdom, we understand that the way up is actually the way down. It's how great of a servant you can be that determines how great of a leader you will become. Jesus basically tells them that in order to be the greatest leader, you must be the greatest servant. And then he even reflects back on himself and who he was and from whence he came and actually what he did as it pertained to the ultimate example of leadership, which was to serve. And he did that to the fullest. So I leave with you that to have a different perception as it pertains to leadership, especially godly leadership, to understand that leadership doesn't exempt you from work, from service, from helping, from even in the corporate world, from taking your suit jacket off and actually doing what a new employee that just got hired has been asked to do. but maybe having a difficult time learning or doing it. And you just may have to. You could be working at a restaurant and person just came in and you put them on the French fries and they're burning all of the fries. And you just may have to call a plate and actually get on the fries and show that person. And another thing that I learned even in this passage, and after I say this, I'll be done. I learned that even with the position of leadership, even with the title of leadership, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be up front. Sometimes as leader, you can take the position as follower. I learned that. That was something that was good. That helped me, because a lot of times, especially when we get the title, we want the hat or we want the nameplate that says leader. I'm the pastor. I'm the bishop. I'm the manager. I'm the supervisor. Jesus never had any of that stuff, and everybody knew who he was. He never had to say that he was who he was. People discovered that, and that was through his service. Thank you. I pray that you have gotten something from this video as it pertains to leadership, and I thank you for the opportunity to allow me to share. God bless you.